who's joining in, thank you for joining in. And if for some reason you can't see or hear us, please let us know so we can kind of get that fixed. We can see you both. Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so I was just saying how grateful I am that we are even hopping on this together. So exciting. And then, so I went ahead and asked a lot of my viewers kind of just questions that they had about foot zoning. And some of them came in with some great questions. I'm going to pull up those questions. But before we get started in there, just because I love hearing about people's stories, and your story is probably one of my favorites. When I first ran across your story, I was just, at this time, I had already been a zoner. But it was just another reassurance of how amazing this beautiful gift is. So would you mind sharing that story with my viewers? And
absolutely, no problem. It's my story. Obviously, I can talk about it for hours because there are so many details. But in a summary, foot zoning changed my life dramatically. I had a son at the time, and he was extremely ill. He had many things: eczema, severe eczema, psoriasis, liver failure, lung disorders. I mean, he had RSV. I can't tell you how many times before he turned 1. And then he was diagnosed with autism and some, some neurological stuff. Anyways, and I felt like the more specialists we saw, the more therapists we saw, I just felt like he was given more drugs, and I just felt like he was getting worse and worse. And I remember hitting rock bottom at one moment and just saying, there's got to be something else. There has to be something else. And just really going with those mama bear instincts and reaching out to the unknown, because obviously if I knew what to do, I would have applied it and it would have worked. So I really started getting out of my comfort zone and started looking at the other side of the fence and started searching and asking other people, what other modalities, or also go and find out what other things moms were doing for their kids. And so long story short, though, I came across foot zoning. It was actually, I went to go visit my sister right on the border of Idaho and Utah. And I was at my wit's end because, of course, every night, after you're pacing the floor with my child, mom doesn't sleep. And of course I had my own health issues, but that was put on the back burner because our children comes first. Anyways, went and saw this woman. She was absolutely amazing. It was a miracle that I actually got in to see her at the time that I was there visiting. And of course it was foot zoning. And when I was a child, I loved to have my feet rubbed. Like, for me to go to sleep, my dad used to rub my feet. So feet were like a little special place in my heart. So when I found out that this woman, she rubs her feet and tells you what's going on, I'm like, sign me up, I'm all in. So I went to go see her, and I had the most moving experience sitting in her chair. I just, within not even a minute of her working on me, of course, I'm starting to get teary-eyed, just because I just felt this overwhelming sense of emotion. And of course, right off the bat, she asked me, oh, do you have a hard time getting pregnant? I'm like, absolutely. It took us a long time to get pregnant. We were starting IVF. And so, of course, then from there out, she started nailing all my health stuff. And I was like, what? How does this woman know this? But then she had a remedy for me, and everything made sense to me. So, of course, my son was getting foot zoned next, and she just looked at his feet, and she said, do you know he's highly allergic to dairy? I'm like, my mom actually had mentioned that to me a couple of times because I myself couldn't have dairy when I was young. My mom used to have to drive across the bridge and go get goat's milk, bring it back. And I would ask my doctor that. They would say, no, if he had dairy issues, he'd be having severe diarrhea. It's not dairy, not dairy, not dairy. But so the way she proposed this to me, she goes, well, if you don't think it's dairy, or you do, why not just take him off dairy for 2 weeks and see how he does? And it was like, boom, like such a novel idea. Like, wait, someone's giving me permission to do that. I can do that. So anyways, we're going through this treatment on the feet, and she nails everything down to the medications that were in his body, the hindrances he was having. She even said, I can't legally diagnose, but it definitely, seems like he has autism. And I said, yeah, he's already been diagnosed. He's been on the spectrum. And she said, well, try A, B, C, and D. And she gave me some remedies, and it rang true with me. And I had nothing to lose. Why not try it? So, of course, I go to work. And, one thing that I want to share, he made eye contact with me for the very first time after that foot zoning appointment. And so right there, I was blown away, and I'm like, there's something to this. I need to do more. So I set up another appointment. And of course, I being in California, I just thought, you know what? I have hundreds of thousands of dollars in doctor bills and we're going nowhere. I'm just going to fly out here and get him zoned as often as possible. So that's what we did. And every time he got zoned, I got foot zoned. And I was feeling better. But anyways, fast forward, 9 months later, he was no longer autistic. His liver enzymes were back to normal. His legs that used to be extremely bowed were like 50% better by this time. His liver enzymes back to normal. His lungs, we didn't have any respiratory issues. So it was just like amazing. Quit drooling out of the mouth. He was talking, eye contact. Well, one of the problems I had is like I couldn't get pregnant. Well, after getting footzone and completely changing our diet, like completely changing it, I got pregnant. Naturally, totally on my own, nothing I was planning. So this surprised me. I was really excited. And by this time, I had found a footzoner in California. At the time, there was one registered footzoner. And again, I could talk about that for hours, how that miraculously appeared. I was able to find her. But I was getting zoned by her during my pregnancy. Well, at 21 weeks, I found out that his brain was had many tumors, many cysts on the brain. They told me he would abort. He wouldn't make it. There was nothing I could do. And to be honest, I was devastated because here I wanted a child. And I remember thinking, I need to learn this. I need to learn foot zoning. And the gal who we were getting foot zone from, she kept saying, Amber, you need to learn how to do this. And I was like, no way. I can't. I'm doing so much, already changing diet and doing supplementation and being the 100% caretaker of this child. I just don't think I can do it. I owned a graphic design firm in the Silicon Valley. I already had my hands full. But when this happened with my second son, I realized, oh my gosh, I need to learn how to do this. And I remember thinking, if my child lived and we made it through, like, I've got to learn how to do this. So fast forward, during my pregnancy, of course, they really wanted me to abort, but I said, no, I'm not. I'm going to keep this pregnancy. And I remember the geneticist said, why would you do that? You're inflicting the pain on yourself. And I'm like, you know what? If the child only lives 2 minutes, I'm okay with that, And she just said, well, I guess your pain won't be so long. He'll only live like 2 minutes, maybe 2 weeks, and you'll be done with it. And I was devastated when she said, but I thought, you know what? My gut is saying just move forward. So I did. I was getting zoned twice, sometimes 3 times a week during my pregnancy, and I had an extremely strict diet, everything to clean the brain, to nourish the brain. I ended up keeping him in full term, which I told there was not a possibility to do that. And I delivered him in the Lucille Packard unit. And of course, they whisked him away right when he was born, thinking, he would hardly make it. But he was only in the NICU for a day or two. And they're like, you know what? Your child's eating, he's breathing, he's sleeping. They offered you brain surgery. Although tumors had shrunk, cysts, there was only one little cyst left. But I just said, no, especially talking with an anesthesiologist, and they said, he's eating, he's pooping, he's sleeping. Why put a child under so much, so much stress in the body? So fast forward, I ended up, okay, I got to learn how to do this. So there I went. And so my second son, he is now 11. So this happened 11 years ago. And I went on the fast track. I was like, I am learning how to do this. So of course I learned beginning foot zoning, and I couldn't get enough of it. So I took every class available at the American Nordblum Institute of Footzone-ology. I took food rejuvenation. I took the autoimmune courses. I took back zoning, face zoning, hand zoning, like you name it, so that I can make sure they have the tools and the resources to take care of my children. I didn't want to feel dark and so alone in a pit of confusion the way I did with my first. I was like, I have to learn these things. So of course, then I couldn't get enough. So I went on to learn all about food and how food heals the body. And I, learned about herbs and more about nutrition and more about essential oils and getting different degrees. And then I ended up studying with a couple different people because I wanted to learn and gain more knowledge and insight from them. And it just I couldn't stop. The yearning and the passion to learn more just catapulted forward. Then I became a coach, and then I became a teacher and an instructor, and then a master footzone-ology instructor, and the list goes on. But besides the point, right now I have 3 healthy, beautiful boys that are definitely the light of my life, and I couldn't imagine my life without footzoning and the tools and resources and the assurance that it's given me. In this world, I mean, I feel like everybody I meet, someone's got something going on with their health. And it's so empowering for me to be able to know what to do, or at least know what resources I can go to be able to pull the information that I need to help assist my family or to help assist others. So it's definitely been a beautiful journey. And of course, I was a graphic designer, but there became this inner struggle with me where I absolutely loved what I did for my career, but I felt this major pull to shift and actually do footzoning on other people. It definitely wasn't my intent in the beginning. It was just to keep my kids alive. But then I realized, you know what, there's so many people that are coming to me and needing information. Maybe this is what I need to do. And eventually I ended up selling my design firm and then doing this full time. And then it's just kind of evolved, just word of mouth and getting the information out. But anyways, there's
Awesome.
lots of many details of that story, but that's kind of it in a nutshell.
Oh my gosh, thank you. Every time I hear that, I'm more and more like sucked in and drawn to it, because it's remarkable. And the more I feel like where you were 10 years ago is kind of where I'm at now starting. And it's like every class I'm taking more and more classes and learning more and more things, because it's just an ongoing process. And the more things I learn, the more I realize how I can help other individuals. And so thank you for sharing your story. I know when people ask me how I get started, I'm like, I don't have like this remarkable story. I just felt so drawn to it. I remember with my first, I got zoned for the first time just by a neighbor lady. We had just met, and I was telling her I had lumps underneath my armpit and I was getting nervous about them. Yeah. And she goes, well, let me zone you real quick. I'm like, all right, I don't know what that is. And she grabs my foot and I'm like, okay, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
And so she was working on my feet, and she's like, okay, yeah, I feel the lumps. And then she was able to find this foreign object I had in my body that I was aware of. Yeah. And I was just at that point like, this is voodoo. What is going on here? Because I was just very new to the like natural holistic world. It was such a new experience for me. Yeah. Sorry. And then she kept going, and she's like, oh, you have back problems. And at that time I was a very heavy weightlifter. That's what I thrived on. I loved it. I was big into weightlifting, and of course comes the back issues. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you are like ringing my soul, woman. And then she came across things, you've got a lot of heavy metals in you. And she just kind of went on with this list, and it was beautiful. And I think the thing that I appreciated the most was the protocols that she gave me, like you mentioned before, were all just beautiful from nature. These are the foods I want you to focus on, the herbs, the essential oils I want you to focus on. And for that is what kind of caught me like a hook and sinker right there. It was like, okay, I appreciate someone who is just telling me how to heal my body with God-given things. And that was just so beautiful. And so she zoned me once, and I said, okay, I feel so drawn to this. I don't know why, but I need to learn how to do this. And so I signed up like literally just like weeks later, and after getting my first zone, and I told my husband about it. And of course, it's such a new world to him. He was like, yeah, sure, whatever you need to do, honey. And at the time I didn't know why I needed to be a zoner. I really didn't understand what was drawing me to it, because I didn't have any like health dramatic problems at the time. But at that same time, my husband, so at the time we were only married for a few years, and I asked him if I could share this story because it is kind of personal on his end. He's like, I don't care, go for it. But before I met him, he was a really heavy drug user and was addicted to a lot of hardcore drugs. And I knew about it marrying him, and he was clean at the time. But what I didn't know or understand was what it does to the brain. And it wasn't until a few years into our marriage, like we were going, to doctors, to therapists, trying to find answers to what was going on with his brain connection. And they kept telling us visit after visit, there's nothing you can do. That's what drugs do to the brain. Everything's disconnected. And I told him, I'm like, can we just zone on you? And I'm going to intentionally try to connect whatever it is that's disconnected with you. And he's like, at this point, whatever. And so we did a lot of research on certain herbs and essential oils and through zoning. And I think that was the first time where I got that, okay, this is why I became a zoner. And this is what I needed to do for my family. And he was able to completely change and heal those connections that we never thought was possible. And he had a lot of things like that came along with that, you know, through like anxiety, things that also came along with the drug abuse or addiction. And to this day, it just still amazes me that something, I feel like, okay, I think that's why I was called to this.
Yes. Well, what's so beautiful, Janelle, is even though it was a small little inkling, those smallest little inklings are sometimes the most powerful indicators about something. Even though it's not a brick that fell over our heads, fell onto our heads, or a piano from the sky, but that little burning desire within can lead us to great things. And I think of the moment when I was at my sister's and she's like, hey, there's this voodoo foot lady down the street. And I was like, huh, I want to get my foot rubbed. You know, she's like, oh no, she'll help your son. And it's like, well, she'll help Calvin. And it's like, oh no, I want to get my foot rubs. And I always think to this day, what if I didn't go? Yeah. What if I didn't just follow that prompting? You know, and it didn't lead me into what I needed to know for my second son, or even have a second child. So we sometimes think those small little voices or little feelings is just being like, yeah, but it can lead you to the most powerful things. And then you already had the knowledge of knowing when this other situation came at hand. It's like, wait, I've already taken this. I've learned this. You were prepared for these exact moments. Yeah, I think it's beautiful.
Yeah, no, and it is, and it's and at the time I was like, I'm only doing this for my family. But then when, you know, and probably you felt this too, when you realize you have tools put in place to help other individuals heal in ways that no one else can kind of assist them to that next step. And it just turned into something beautiful. And the amounts of stories I get from continuing clients that come and just their stories, and it's amazing to be able to just help assist people to the next step, to the next stepping stone on their healing process. And so absolutely could talk on and on about foot zoning because we love it so much. But, okay, let's get on to the questions before we talk away here. Let me get to them. Okay, so the first question that came in, I think we need to just hit it right off the bat, is what is foot zoning? Because a lot of people don't know.
Yeah, it's like, what is that crazy woo-woo? Foot zoning is when you access the signal systems on the feet. So you're working with the feet, access those signal systems on the feet to help rebalance the body, rejuvenate the body, detox the body, and raise the life energy in the body so their body can get back in balance. So as a foot zoner, I don't heal. I don't, you know, I'm not the one making their body heal. Their body already has that innate knowing how to heal. But because of the abuse we've given our body, or the negative environment we're in, or the negative foods that we're eating, hinders the body, slows the body, congests the body, and then not bringing in enough of what the body needs, it hinders the body's ability to heal. So with this resetting of these signals on the bottom of the feet, you're basically reminding the body what it needs to be doing. You're cleaning up, you're detoxing so that the body can do what it needs to do to get back in balance. And some people, when they get a foot zone, it'll be more detox. Other people, it'll be more rebalancing. Other people, it'll just be getting this overall good feeling and releasing emotions. All depends on where that person's at in their health journey. Okay? Will depend on how the body responds to it. But if you can imagine a billion nerve endings in the bottom of the feet, and you're pushing reset on all of them. So, and then when you push reset, the body will do what it needs to do. It's like your computer's acting a little funny. You push the reset button, you turn off the power, and then turn it back on, and it kind of reboots itself because it has the microchips within it to tell it what to do when it needs to be rebooted. So that's kind of foot zoning. So if you can think of your feet as a keyboard, or a foot zoner comes in and just pushes the keyboard and does some programming to reset the system.
Oh my gosh, I love that analogy. I've not heard that described that way, and I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, so another question that came in was, how often should you be zoned?
With every person, it's different. Now, there are some people who have very serious conditions at hand, and then, so I would recommend them coming once a week or twice a week. I mean, times, like in my condition, I was like, I'm ready to do this with my second son while I was pregnant. I want to be zoned 2 or 3 times a week. Great. There's other people, it's once a month. There's some people who come once every 6 months, depending on what the needs are or what that specific individual wants. So it just varies. And sometimes you can just do it, once a week as a rejuvenating the body, resetting. It's kind of like massage. People are like, well, how often should I get a massage? Well, how stiff are your muscles? How well do you need your muscles to be loose and working for the job, and the demands that you have will depend on how often you need to be massaged. So it's really, it is really dependent on the person's condition. Yeah.
Okay, so you kind of answered this next question, but maybe kind of just elaborate on why it's important to do multiple. So they asked, do you have to do multiple sessions, or is one session going to be enough?
So yeah, you can just do one session to figure out what's going on, but the body is always changing. The body, it's kind of like laundry. Could we do it once? Are we all done with it? Because you're going to wear clothes and they're going to get dirty again. You're going to wake up every day and you're going to hit with emotions, negativity, wrong foods, maybe chemicals in the air. You're going to slip and fall and have an injury. Our bodies are always in motion, and they always need some repairing and some rejuvenating. So you can come once, figure out what's going on in your body, and then leave and go to work. Yes, that could be. So it just depends on your health goals and how much you want to accomplish, but one can do that. I used to have one person just come once a year annually, even though she didn't have any major symptoms or red flags, but she just wanted to know right where her body was at, see if there's any vitamins or nutrients or minerals that she was low on, to make sure that she is on the preventative track. So people can do that, or again, they can come once and figure out, what are all the things that are wrong with me, and just tell me, and then I'll go and do my stuff. That's fine. So yeah, people can do that.
Okay, so we just had a question come in just barely that I'm going to ask you. They're asking, can you do it on yourself, and how?
Yes. So as long as you can touch your feet, touch your toes, no problem. So I zone myself twice a week because I am always on the go, and just, well, one, I've got 3 boys, and then working on other clients and other people. I always want to make sure I am grounded, and my energy is good, and then I'm in a good space to be able to help people. So honestly, when you zone somebody, you start with your right foot, and then you end with your left. So as long as you can sit Indian style on the floor and, get your feet, no problem. Or swing your feet out to the side, or you can sit on the chair and then just bend down and work on your feet, no problem.
Yes, and in fact, I have only had someone zone me twice in the last 3 years that I've known about foot zoning, and the rest I have done on my own. So
Okay.
I don't know why, but so you definitely can do it on your own.
Yeah.
Okay, let me see where I left off here. Okay, so this question is great too. They're asking, do you only get zoned when you're not feeling well, or can you come when you're feeling just fine?
You can get zoned. Like for me, I was in an emotional, challenging spot with my child. And although physically I was just feeling pregnant, nothing major, physically, out of the norm. But yeah, I knew there was a situation on the inside that was going on. And so I wanted to prevent that. So yes, you can come when you're feeling at your absolute worst, or yes, you can come when you're feeling at your best. It doesn't matter. When you are feeling sick and not well, it's great to get a foot zone, because that's when your body needs it the most, to reset, to reboot, to detox the body, to help it do what it needs to do to bring you to a higher vibration, to more vitality. But when you're well, you don't have to, but absolutely you can come to just see where your body's at. You may be feeling well, but again, what's going on underneath the surface that you're not detecting yet? It's, and maybe I'll just go on a little tangent right now. There's a lot of people go, well, I don't need to get footzone. I'm perfectly fine, but my husband needs to come or my child needs to come. But I can right off the bat sense that their body is out of balance. A lot of us, we don't realize what is going on under our skin. And so it's kind of like a heart attack. When people have a heart attack, it doesn't mean like it's that one thing that they ate that day or the one little mishap that happened that day. No, it was probably years in the making to be able to reach that heart attack. Or when someone has the C word, cancer, it didn't just happen overnight. Okay, what happened is there was an imbalance in the inside. There was a dis-easement. And so those things can happen under the surface without you even knowing. And they can develop to where they get so big or so loud that you're actually getting symptoms on the outside. And so it's really good to get foot zoned, even when you might feel good, just as a checkup, see, you know, what imbalances do I have? Is there something that I can do about this now? It's like when I'm working on my kids, like they'll come home, I'll sense something's off, I'll zone them, oh, they picked up a bacteria, it's sitting in their tonsils or it's sitting in their lymph. I can quickly move it out of the body with the foot zone. I can give them a couple herbs that day to flush it through, and then they never feel the symptoms of being sick. You know, you take care of it before it becomes a problem. So preventative is always the best. This is why I love teaching foot zoning, because if you have the tools and resources to see or feel what's going on under the surface before it happens, how empowering that is and how much better off you'll be so you don't have those crises in your life.
Yes, I love that. Just having it as, like you said, a prevention and
yeah,
going through and taking care of things before it gets to a point where we feel like we need it. Might as well just address it.
Yeah.
All right. So this one is for a specific thing on the body, but can foot zoning help with knee pain?
Yeah. So knee pain can come from many, many different ways. It can come from a swelling in the back of the gland that pushes on the knee. It can come from people can have knee pain because of torn meniscus. They can have it, you know, from an injury where there's now swelling or the lymph is blocked. Or maybe their knee injury is coming from the hip. You know, their hips are so tight, the circulation isn't good. So for the couple years, they've gotten poor circulation to the knees and they have broken down, you know, slowly over time. So with foot zoning, yes, absolutely it can help with knee pain, but also too, it can help you target why you have knee pain. Maybe you know because you have a torn meniscus. And so if that's the case, you want to support everything around that meniscus, the muscles, the tendons, the ligaments, so that that knee can function at its highest capacity and maybe not get worse, or help the nerves that are in and around that area so it can handle that injury. Or, I mean, people say, you know, you can't heal cartilage. I've seen it happen way too many times. So with giving the right herbs and supplements and zoning. So to answer that question, yes, you absolutely can.
Perfect. I'm going to lead into this question because it kind of goes along with something if you're looking at something specific. How long does it take for you to see results when you're getting zoned?
Okay. It could be in that moment. You can see results like within minutes. You can see results over a period of time, but again, it depends on that person and it depends on their circumstance. So I've met another foot zoner and I've worked on her, and since we worked on each other, traded, but her situation of why she got into foot zoning, she had fibromyalgia and she had been dealing with it for years. One foot zone got rid of her pain 100% and it never came back. So, I mean, that's miraculous, and so you can't guarantee that with anybody, but right then and there, she's like, I have to learn this. And what that foot zoning was able to do is release some emotions, but reset her whole body and bring it back into alignment. And she was living her life in a way that her body was very responsive to the foot zone. She wasn't abusing her body with, you know, unhealthy foods or drugs or things of that sort. So her body was really responsive. And I've had that working with a couple people where they've come with their child and their child can't talk to them, but yet, you know, there's something's wrong and they're in a lot of pain. You zone them and boom, they quit the fussing, they quit the screaming, they now can sleep through the night, and it was just one foot zone. But then other people, it can happen multiple times depending on the condition of their body. How bad did they beat their body down for how long? Okay. How long have they been in this situation? What is their environment like? Are they in toxic relationships? Are they feeding their bodies poor foods? Are they not giving their body the minerals they need? So it takes a while to get in a couple foot zones and bring in the right minerals that they need and then have this steady balance. It might take a month or two, but I had somebody come who was in a wheelchair and had been in a wheelchair for quite a few years. And within 6 months, he was out of that wheelchair walking and running. Wow. And then blood work was absolutely perfect, and it hasn't been for years. So it just depends on, also I want to bring this up, is what that person is doing. Because again, the foot zoner doesn't heal that individual. You can help them and assist them, but it's what is it that they're going to do day in and day out to assist that ability for the body to heal and the body to regain its balance. So it really depends. For each individual, it's different.
Yeah, probably too, for obviously the amount of work that they're willing to put into it. Because I know a lot of times I have some clients who are like, hey, no, just give me one thing, and explaining to them it's going to be a longer process if you want, so putting in the work, I think, is also going to help that process speed up just a little bit.
Yeah, and I'm a firm believer each individual has to take charge of their own health. I can only meet them halfway. Yeah. I can do their feet, but if they're not doing things on a regular basis, then they're gonna still have these problems. So I do my work, but they have to do theirs, and it becomes this beautiful healing journey.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Does foot zoning use energy, like energy work?
Okay. So good question. I know energy is such a beautiful thing, but also a very touchy subject for some people. But I will have to say this. I just don't think we really understand energy. Okay. When we're in science class, 6th, 7th, 8th grade, we learn about energy. The world would not exist without energy. We could not put a rocket into space without energy. The lilies of the field would not grow without energy. Okay. The sun creates energy, which creates a reaction within that plant that creates chlorophyll and allows that plant to grow and flower. So we have to understand that energy is everywhere. It's coming through our light bulbs. Okay. When we touch somebody, we're expending energy, we're giving energy and taking energy. So absolutely we use energy in foot zoning, okay? Because there is energy in every single cell in the body. Look at atoms. We can go into this whole science class and talk about energy. But so in that sense, yes, we do energy, but it's not like, ooh, I'm going to throw my energy at you in this woo-woo. You are working on somebody's body through the feet. You're working with the nerves. The nerves in your body is like the electricity, the wiring of a house, okay? The nerves are the communication signals, okay? Those nerves have to be conducted. They have to have energy flowing through them to work. So does the light switch. We switch on the light. There has to be energy to that, and then have a reaction to turn on something else. So when I am working on someone's feet, yes, I am using energy. I am connecting with their body through the feet. I'm touching. My hands, my knuckles are literally touching nerve endings on their feet. So yes, you are using energy in this process. Again, our bodies are full of energy. The world is full of energy. But I understand where some people think like, oh, I don't want to misuse energy work, or I don't want to be dabbling into energy work. But I think we have to understand that we use energy every single day to make our light switch work or the stove turn on, and our bodies emit energy, okay? A lot of times we can't explain the mother's intuition or my gut feeling, or I had this thought cross my mind, however you want to call it, or that's my intuitive self, however you're calling it, same thing. Energy is speaking to your nervous system, okay? Your thought process is creating a response that then activates your nerves and, creates energy, or energy was already created to activate those nerves. So Yes, for the 10th time, we use energy. So, but I also want people to know it's not like, oh, we're going to go sit down in the bottom of the basement and bring on this crazy energy. No, you're working with the energy that's already within you, the energy which is in cells, the energy which is in the nervous system. Yeah.
Yes. I love the way you explained it. I think you did it beautifully. And as you were talking, you talked about using your knuckles, and it just kind of registered on me. And nobody asked this question, but I know when I did my first time I got a foot zone, I'm like, what is she doing? So how can you explain how we zone? What does it entail, like with knuckles and everything?
Yeah, so I start with their right foot on my left knee, and I use my knuckles. I don't even know if you can see this because I can't see video on my screen right now. But my knuckles, they've got calluses on them. My family calls them my weapons. I call them my tools. But I use my knuckles and maybe a couple other knuckles, and I'll use sometimes the side of my thumb to access the points on the bottom of the feet. Okay, and when I hit that point, I'm resetting it and actually reconnecting their body, their DNA to their blueprint. But depending on how that feels to me, okay, will let me know what's going on in the body. So if you are blind and you read Braille, you touch your fingertips on Braille. They're just dots placed in a certain order, in a certain configuration. That means something. And depending on what that feels like, it will give you information. And so it is with the bottom of the feet. When you're touching with your knuckles and then the fingertips, sides of the thumb, and working all through the feet, one, you're resetting and reconnecting their body. But two, you're also able to analyze what's going on. So if I go over the knee and it feels a certain way, whether it's empty, hollow, sandy, inflamed, there's so many different ways it could feel, will let me know what is going on in the body. Okay, so I'm just using my hands. I don't use any tools. It's just my fingers, my wonderful hands that allow me to sense and feel. Yeah, and again, we'll start on the right foot and we'll do everything on the side, the top, the other side, and the bottom of the foot, and then we'll move to the left foot and finish off. The foot zone that I do on myself is the exact same that I do on my children. It's the exact same that I do on someone coming to me with a life-threatening condition or somebody who's coming to me with a common cold. It is all the exact same zone because what you're doing is you're accessing their entire body to get it to reset because you don't know where the root cause of the problem is. And so this is why it's very different from reflexology. We're not going, oh, you have a problem with the liver. Okay, so let me hit the liver. Oh, you have a problem with the eyes. Let me hit the eyes. Well, what if you were having a problem in your eyes because the liver is not filtering the blood and that unclean blood is going to the eyes, which is causing a deterioration in the eyes. You don't know that until you treat the whole entire system. And this is where I love foot zoning because you're looking at the picture in its entirety, in its whole. And this is another reason why I think I definitely encourage people, ask questions and do your research. This is the only way you get to the bottom of what is going on. With anything, you should always do your research and ask out-of-the-box questions because with questions, you start to get more information and more answers. So then, once you figure out the root cause, you can do something about it. And that's what's so empowering. We don't have to be broken. Yeah.
Yes. I love that. And I loved, one of the other questions was, how is foot zoning different from reflexology? And you did hit on that. Is there anything more you want to hit on that to clarify? Or?
Yeah, if you can think of footzone-ology is like on steroids times 10 versus reflexology. Reflexology, although it's very handy and people use it and it's a beautiful thing, but after learning and understanding footzone-ology, reflexology is a bit incomplete. There's so much more information that is needed to do more work on the body and to figure things out. So if you can think of foot zoning as like reflexology on steroids. Yeah.
I love how you say that. Yes. Okay. I think this is the last question that came in. And I think it's a beautiful question to end on, unless you feel like there's something you want to add to it. But their question was, how do I become a foot zoner?
Yay. Okay. I love that question. One, foot zoning has a near and dear place in my heart, obviously. And I've had hundreds and thousands of beautiful experiences with it, and seen people's lives totally change around. So the question is, can anybody learn it, and can people learn how to do it? The answer is absolutely yes. I feel like every household should have a footzoner. And I was actually just telling my husband this morning as I woke up, and my phone was just inundated with many emergency phone calls. And I say many, many. And I thought, I had this sense of it of a little overwhelming. And I thought, oh my gosh, I still have my whole day. And I just like, wow, I wish everybody knew foot zoning. And I'll be honest and maybe a little open. I really do feel like we're moving into a time where we need to be more empowered with the tools and information to take better care of our health. We need to know what to do for our bodies in the simple moments, but also in those complex moments. We're like, oh my gosh, I've got a little health crisis on my hand. What can I do? Where can I go? What resources and tools do I have? As we know, in California, we had strict lockdowns. Unless you had your leg chopped off, they're like, don't go to the hospital. But all those people for many, many months, almost a year, weren't able to go get the medical attention they need for simple stuff, but also big stuff. And it was really sad to see the ramifications of that. But also, wow, how much more as, humanity and as families in America and throughout the world really need this tool to be able to understand their bodies better and to know what they can do to take care of their health, preventative, but also in emergency situations. That being said, I started teaching foot zoning quite a few years ago, not because I wanted to. As a matter of fact, I told people like, oh, you got to fly to Montana and you have to learn it. And I don't know. And then they would call Montana and they're like, oh, you have a teacher right near you. And I'm like, oh no. But I just took the instructor training because I just wanted to glean more light and knowledge. And so I'd be prepared in those moments that I need it. But I started to teach, and I did it because I saw the great need, especially at the beginning with moms, wanting and yearning for more knowledge on how to take care of their children, how to take care of their families and their communities. So I started to teach. And of course, I was just going to do it for 1 year, and then it became 2 years and then 5 years and 7 years and 8 years. So now I teach, and I'm very passionate about teaching because I don't want to have to be the person you call all the time. I don't want that. I want you to be able to empower yourself with the light and knowledge and to be able to have resources to pull from. Now, somebody might say, well, I don't need to learn it. I don't have any problems. But I've had so many moms who are on the fence about taking it, and they decide to take it. And then one of their kids get diagnosed with something a year or two later, or their father gets extremely ill, and they already know, they've already done the homework, they've already prepared themselves, they already have the knowledge, so they know what to do. We do not know what's going to happen tomorrow, but if we can prepare ourselves today for some possible incidents that are going to happen tomorrow, how powerful that would be and how empowering that will be as an individual. All of us live inside bodies on this earth. We all have our own real estate. I have realized over my time as being a foot zoner, most of us don't know how to take care of them. We just haven't truly been taught. And I don't want to say this in a negative way, but it is reality. It's just like not a mask and washing your hands is going to keep you healthy. We need to understand how the immune system works and how to get ourselves in a healthy situation, how make sure our organs are operating at their highest capacity to protect us for whatever comes our way. So on that note, for somebody who wants to learn, I highly recommend it. Just so that you can better yourself and those around you, and even just for your own knowledge, or if you want to become a practitioner, I think that would be great and actually help other people. But even just for yourself and your family, if you go to my Instagram page, Amber Bodily Health, in the stories, there's actually a swipe up where you can add your email to a list. And we're actually this week, today's Monday, this week going to send out all those people that put their email on that list, give them all the information they need about the foot zoning classes. You can also at any time go to my website, amberbodilyhealth.com, click on courses and find more information there. But we are going to be starting a new class in the next couple of months. So if you're kind of interested, just go over to my my Instagram page, go to stories, get registered, register your email on there so we can email you all the information that you need, all the details to be able to decide if it's something that you want to do. Yeah.
Awesome. And I highly recommend it. And you know, most owners that I talk to, we all, I feel like, start out wanting to do it to help our families, whether it's ourselves or our children, our husband, and just kind of keeping that within. But then, like you mentioned, it ends up being that you realize you have these tools to be able to help other people and refer them to get, you know, to become a footzonologist. And it just kind of escalates into something beautiful. And I agree with you 100%. I wish everyone there was at least one member in every home that could have this, this knowledge, this wealth of knowledge, because it's just, there's so much knowledge. When I remember when I went through that course, I was just, my mind was blown a million times over again because you learn so much about the body, and not only just about the body, but all of these things that you can bring in. And your lifestyle changes dramatically. You know, you start realizing, wow, we can do better in this and this. And I didn't realize how many toxic and chemical things we're bringing into our home. And this food that I thought was healthy food is no longer, you know, and I was a nutritionist and have been for almost 8 years now. And I remember when I got that first Foot Zone and the type of nutrition she was asking me to follow, the protocol, I remember my mind was blown. I'm like, how do you know this much about nutrition? Because I just like spent thousands of dollars becoming a nutritionist, and you know more than I do on how to heal the body using nutrition. To me, my knowledge was just like, okay, how do you build muscle? How do you lose weight? And hers was like, oh, this is what you do to heal. And so I just think the knowledge you gain from that course alone is priceless. And it is something that you will continue to use for years and years and be able to pass on to your children and so forth. So
so for me, I think I've already said this, but I wasn't doing this to foot zoning for anybody else. I also realized I need to learn this for my kids and to get our bodies well. But as an outside world, those people around me sort of like, what did you do for your son? Wait, why is he talking now? Wait, why can't he make eye contact? Wait, why is he doesn't have eczema, like head to toe? And it was like, oh, you know, I'm doing this thing. And I didn't really say much because I knew people had very strong opinions about alternative things. So I didn't need anybody's opinion about it. But people noticed, and then they're like, wait, what is it that you're doing? I need to do that. Or, you know, my son has got this eczema. How did you do it? I'm like, well, I kind of did this foot thing, and I'd quickly brush it off. And so then they're like, well, how do I find somebody? And I'm like, I don't know, you know. Right. And they're like, but how is it like, I don't understand. And so anyways, after a while, I just started to work on people, just like, okay, come over to my house after I'm done with work or after hours, you know, and I'll work on you. And they started seeing results, and they would tell people and then other people. So then I was, for a couple of years, I would juggle, like, do my work during the day, and then I put the kids down, and then people come over and I'd zone them till wee hours. And then on my Saturdays, my husband would take the kids, and then it just kind of go. And then it hit me for a while. I'm like, wait, this is what I need to be doing. Would I ever have dreamed in a million years I'd be tickling people's toes for my job? No, I wouldn't. But here I am, and I'm grateful for the journey. I'm grateful, although now I can say it, but for those times where I literally hit rock bottom. And I was like, I didn't know what to do, but I love my son so much. And I was like, I've got to just look outside the box. If I keep doing what I've always been doing, I'm going to get the same results. So what can I do? And so through that hitting rock bottom and then hitting beyond rock bottom, it broke me wide open to this place where I just really started asking questions and opening with no judgment. People give me these, and I'm like, hey, what do you do for this or that? When you asking the holistic field, and they would tell me, I'm like, okay, I'm ready and willing to try everything, you know, break down all barriers, all boundaries. Here we go. And I'm grateful for that moment because it led me on a path of more understanding and how to take care of our bodies. And if I didn't listen to that, I don't even know if I would have had a second or, you know, now a third son, because I would not have been able to if I didn't help my body out. And then, you know, now to actually have a third, knock on wood, no problems, you know, perfectly healthy from the get-go. But, you know, went to so many people, but he's never been to the doctor. So that it's been this beautiful journey. So I think sometimes when we are called to this place where it could be our most miserable moment, if we sit back and just listen to our inner voice or listen to our heart, it could lead us into these beautiful things. But hopefully those that are watching, they don't have to go through those dark, horrible moments. They can take the power into their hands now to have the resources to prevent situations. I wish so badly that I knew this before I started having children or when I was a teenager, but it didn't. And it led me on this journey, and that's okay. And this is why I've taught my oldest. He now is a footzoner. He graduated, went through the whole program, and it's been such a blessing. So I'm like, hey, if you decide to do something with it, great. But if not, at least you have the knowledge, because mom's not always going to be there. And you've got to make your own decisions in life. And you also have to know how to take care of your body. And so it's been a beautiful thing, but it's come full circle where now he does footzoning, and he's the one who brought me into this arena. But it's never too late to learn, and it's a beautiful tool that you will use every day of your life. Every day of your life. Yeah.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Well, Amber, I can't thank you enough for coming on and talking footzoning.
Yeah.
I know it's a beautiful journey, and thank you for everyone who has joined us. And if you guys have questions for Amber, either of us, go follow her Instagram account. She puts so much knowledge on her account that is just, in fact, when I first became a zoner, she wasn't my teacher. If I could go back and I knew she existed, I would have been on the plane to California. But I was directed to her Instagram account because of the amount of knowledge that she put on there as a newly footzoner a few years back. So I highly encourage you guys to all go and follow her and just learn from all of her knowledge. So thank you so much, Amber, and I hope you have a good evening.
You're welcome. Thank you. I will, and thank you so much, Janelle Joy. I want to let you know what a light and a beautiful ray of hope you are to so many people, because you have so much light, knowledge, and information. I love the stuff that you're doing. It's beautiful. So thank you, Janelle, for that, and thank you for providing this space for us to share about footzoning. So I appreciate you.
Yes. Yes, you are welcome. All right. Well, we will talk to you later.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Okay. We'll see you, Amber.
Bye.